Neil Ziega, the producer of BBC's respected Play for Today strand, had noted the popularity of the time travel episode The Flip Side of Dominic Hyde and its sequel. It encouraged him to create an experimental spin-off called Play for Tomorrow. 6 episodes were made and broadcast in the same time slot as its parent show. 6 writers were given a video showing a panel of experts discussing what the beginning of the 21st century might hold for Britain, and were then asked to write a TV play. Today, we're talking about cricket. Hello and welcome back to Very British Futures, the podcast about UK science fiction television. And at the moment we're presenting a special mini-season examining Play for Tomorrow, the 1982 anthology of 6 speculative plays about what life in Britain would be like at the dawn of the 21st century. Today has a rare rural view of the future, as well as featuring the infrequent appearance of cricket in science fiction. To discuss it, I've invited writer, editor and organiser of the beloved Hooverville convention, Steve Hatcher.
Hello, Gareth. It's an absolute pleasure to be back. It's a while since I did one of these.
It has. It's been too long, so it's great. Cricket was written by Michael Wilcox and directed by Michael Darlow. It was broadcast on BBC One on Tuesday the 27th of April at 9:25 p.m. The selection committee of Coanwood Cricket Club is meeting to decide the lineup for the final match of the season at the farmhouse of Chairman John Ridley. His wife, Morna, is providing afternoon tea, and she notices the men are acting unusually secretively. Once she's been sent away, Lord Slaggyford activates a device to disrupt computer and radio surveillance, either by their rivals Blenkinsop or the authorities. The meeting gets underway using an online version of Wisdom, which stores all their match data and can suggest the ideal team order and strategy. However, soon cricket talk gives way to the matter of an incompetent guerrilla raid on a local farm carried out by John's son Willie and his friends. In the future, the government, via the Forestry Commission, has been compulsory purchasing Northumberland farmland to plant forests and wants to split large-scale farms into smaller areas with more workers. Lord Slaggyford feels that this is the end of a way of life for sheep farmers like John and his other tenants. He proposes a campaign of sabotage and disruption, or even a scorched earth policy. Colin Bayliss suggests a public campaign, which is enthusiastically received by the others apart from the aristocrat. Discussion returns to sport, but the men suspect that Morna might be spying on them. They just don't know who for. After the meeting breaks up, his lordship plants a secret microphone, something Morna seems to be aware of. She advises Willie to make sure he chooses the winning side, which to her is the government scheme. The next weekend, the match against Blenkinsop takes place. And before we get into this particular play, I wanted to know how aware you were of Play for Tomorrow in general.
Well, let's have a think. I certainly saw it. Oh, I don't know, maybe about 20 years ago. I didn't see it when it was first on, which was what was that? April '82, wasn't it? This particular one.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't see it then. I'm not quite sure why, because I was certainly alive and well and watching television at that point. I think I saw it about 20 years ago. It's one of those things that probably maybe before YouTube came along, or before it, or when it had come along, but I wasn't as aware of it as I am now. Either somebody sent me copies of them, or as we did, didn't we? We would swap
Hmm.
odd things we came across,
Hmm.
or I found it on YouTube. I sat down to watch this play for the first time since on Saturday, actually, on the
Hmm.
disc that I've got them on now. I suspect that what that might be is a disc recorded off a VHS given to me 20 years ago. It might even have just been a straight disc. And it was unwatchable, not particularly because of the quality of the play, but because of the quality of the recording. It was this awful pirate recording, presumably with some sort of camcorder with a time code at the top, and somebody's ripped it off from some library somewhere. So luckily, I was able to find it again on modern YouTube and see a much better copy where I could actually hear the dialogue, such as it was.
Yes, yes. But a similar story to me. I wasn't aware. I suspect I was just very unsophisticated back then, and we didn't have spaceships in it or monsters or anything back in '82, so I wasn't
Well, I'm a
watching
bit
them.
older than you. I mean,
Hmm.
I would have been, where would I have been? I'd have been in my mid-20s by then. So,
Ah,
yeah, I haven't got that excuse, but it still pertains, absolutely. But it's just not a valid
um,
excuse. Anyway, up. It is what
eh,
it is, this play.
it is, yes. So that's going to be my next question, obviously, is moving into specifics. What do you generally think about cricket?
But the game or the play?
About the play
The
by,
play. Right. Well, let's be really positive and say I don't hate it. I don't love it either. To be fair, I never really took to this Play for Tomorrow series massively. I mean, there's the odd
Hmm.
good bit here and there, but I felt it was a bit of a missed opportunity. I mean, there are so many good science fiction stories you could have done along that theme. It came about from Dominic Hyde, didn't it? That Play for
Mm,
Today had done Dominic Hyde the previous year, which had gone down brilliantly well and was superb.
it is
And they
absolutely
thought,
superb.
yeah, and then they thought, haha. We can do 6 science fiction plays, and then they come up with these six. There's some good people involved in the series, but I don't think this is the strongest play in a series that I don't think is the strongest series. Let's put it that way.
I think
What happens in this play, Gareth? What happens? Not
I
a
must
lot.
admit, I sat down to summarize it just after I'd watched it,
Yeah.
and I really struggled.
Some blokes sit in a room and pick a cricket team.
I mean, that is essentially it, and they have a bit of a debate. I mean, in some ways, it's almost a kind of caricature of a play for today sort of format, in that we have a kind of the issue. We have an issue which is rural farming, like I see,
Nationalisation of the land is
nationalization
what's
of the land. That's
yeah.
that's basically it, and the
If only
conflict.
the 1997 Labour government had come in and and decided to go down that, because it's set in 97, isn't it? Which is interesting.
So yeah, that's kind of what it's about. It's about nationalization of
It,
farming and the reactions, and there's a little bit about legitimate politics against more sort of activism, and that some of the people in that room want to take direct action and want to be
yeah,
sabotaging
yeah,
and setting things on fire.
yeah.
And there are other people who say
But it's a
no.
class thing, isn't it? It's a class thing, and it's interesting that the person taking the lead in organising the active resistance, the violent resistance, is Lord Slaggyford himself. He's the
Mm,
person who has perhaps most to lose when his vast acres of land are taken off him. So the
hmm
ruling class there showing its muscle. I mean, there's a lot of class in this, isn't there? There's
mm,
there's the tension within the team between the working class captain who exerts his
hmm
authority, John. There's
hmm
the slightly middle class teacher, played by Simon Rouse, who of course is
hmm
wonderful as in everything.
Oh
Um,
yeah, he's probably the best
who
performer.
owes? Oh yeah. And he owes his job to Lord Slaggyford because Lord Slaggyford is the chairman of governors of his school, and he's pulled strings to get him his job because he's a good fast bowler for the team. So there's those sort of class tensions there. It's a play that looks if it's going to go in an interesting direction, and then goes, nah, can't be bothered, because it starts. It's these guys sitting in a room, being very secretive, making sure the windows are closed, the curtains are closed, making sure that John's wife leaves the room and goes and makes tea for them or whatever. And they're being very secretive. And what they're doing is picking a cricket team. and you think they bring in this business about we could be being listened to. It could be the Forestry Commission. And you go, what? What? The Forestry Commission? And it looks as if they're sort of organizing a resistance against some sort of despotic government, some sort of post-coup d'etat fascist Britain or whatever, which is a topic I'm very interested in. And then it just doesn't go there. It does this little talk about pushing over a few fences and organising some sort of armed resistance, and then very quickly gets back to picking a cricket team and the class conflicts with falling out between who's going to play and who isn't. And Lord Slaggyford absolutely is going to play because it's his ground and probably his bats and balls and stumps as well. But it's an odd one. It is an odd piece.
I'd have to agree. You get this early, in fact, for years, because I only knew this from its little Radio Times, what that said about the plot, and that did make it sound as though they were doing something really serious.
Yes.
It was,
or is something more sinister behind the Coanwood Cricket Club?
And unfortunately, the answer is no.
No.
It's
not much.
They're all a bit ineffectual. I mean, we also see that they have this little review because some of the young farmers have done this little stage, this little raid where I think they seem to chase a few sheep around. I'm not, and all rather incompetently. And there's a little bit of humour in how naff the guerrilla activity has been. But
it's set in the northeast. It's in rural Northumberland. From some of the places that get mentioned, and when they show on that, because I used to live up in Carlisle, so I know that way a bit. And John and his wife have been on holiday Silloth on the Cumbrian coast the previous year, which is very sad for them. I have been to Silloth, and it's not well. Anyway, moving on. Sorry, Silloth. But it mentions Alston, which is up in the hills on the border between Cumbria and Northumberland. It talks about Hexham, and which again is a lovely town in Northumberland, and a day out to Newcastle. So we know exactly where it's set. We know pretty much when it's set, summer of 1997. We don't. It's never fully explained how on earth these people are a cup-winning cricket team, because when you see them on the cricket field, well, clearly they'd recruited some club cricketers as extras, because some of the players who we never get to meet can play, and now a bunch of actors. Least said, the better, probably. Jeremy Child looks as if he could bat a little bit. Who plays Lord Slaggyford. Jeremy Child's an interesting character, isn't he? Have you looked up on Jeremy Child?
I did look up a little bit. I mean, for a start, he is a genuine aristocrat.
He is Coles John Jeremy Child, the son of Foreign Office diplomat Sir Coles John Child. So, in fact, he was Sir Coles John Jeremy Child because that was a baronetcy. So, on the death of his father, he inherited his baronetcy. And a baronetcy isn't quite a lordship. It's like it's like a hereditary sirhood. You can call yourself sir on a hereditary basis. Now, yes, and he was brought. They were the lords of the manor of Bromley, and lived at Bromley Palace, where our Jeremy was brought up. Educated at Wellesley House School, a preparatory school in Broadstairs, and then Eton College, Eglon College, and then spent a year at Poitiers University in France. Well, there's a thing, eh? And then became a child actor at the Bristol Old Vic School.
And you look at his career; it's all playing aristocrats and government ministers and other those.
He's one of those television actors of the, well, I suppose 60s through to 90s.
Hmm.
Um, where he died relatively recently, 2022. He was one of those actors who I suppose not many people would have been able to put a name to, but
Mm.
everyone would have recognized. But it would have been a very familiar face. He would have been him off the telly, wouldn't he? Um,
Mm. He's definitely
it,
got one of those faces. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And it took me actually a moment to recognize Simon Rose. He sort of looks. I thought I'd look. Oh, he looks familiar from somewhere. And then,
Well,
oh my word.
this is round about the time that he did Kinder for Doctor Who, isn't it? Of
Mm.
course. So he looks a bit like he did in Kinder, although not much like he did in the Bill. And
Mm.
if you see him now, he's looks quite different. But there's Sam Rose, and we've talking of Doctor Who, Malcolm Terris as well from
Mm.
the Horns of Nimon.
And
Yeah.
I was wondering where I'd seen that face
Mm,
before.
mm.
He's here playing a rather more at least competent character than he
With
played in Doctor Who.
with unsplit trousers. He famously splits his trousers, doesn't he, in Doctor Who? That's he's rounding up those ineffectual kids.
Yeah. Now you were commenting on the actors playing the cricket, and one of the
Mm.
reasons, apart from your vast knowledge of actors and cult TV and stuff, as I wanted you, is that you are a cricket fan yourself.
I'm a massive cricket fan. I'm I've played club cricket in Cumbria many
Hmm.
years ago in my 20s. I was quite probably one of the world's worst ever cricketers, which I suppose is one of the tragedies of my life, that I absolutely love a game that I can't play for toffee. I'm,
Ah.
I'm shocking at it. But I followed it since 1971 or thereabouts, 71, 72. So it's been a lot of times I've been following cricket, and it's been ups
Ah.
and downs. As a cricket fan,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, so you can see where people don't know how to hold a bat or can't bowl and things. Yeah, you see that. But as a cricket fan, the joy of this little play is
Hmm.
Brian Johnston, who we get to hear only. Now, we should say that because this is the all shiny computer generated future, that
Hmm.
this selection team for this committee for this cricket team, stroke highly ineffectual bunch of terrorists, use this computer prediction model thing to
Hmm.
help pick their team and select their terrorist activities, their low-level terrorist activities. And the voice of the cricket prediction computer, which has got the statistics for every club player you can possibly imagine, including all of them in it.
Hmm.
He's liable to drop catches, it says. He's more useful in wet conditions. All this sort of nonsense. But the voice of the computer is Brian Johnston. Now,
Hmm.
Brian Johnston, for those who aren't cricket fans, who don't know or who didn't used to listen to Down Your Way on Radio 4 back in the 70s and so on, he was a wonderful broadcaster and a cricket commentator for many, many, many years. Started off in 1946 with the launch of the BBC television after the war, and was a television correspondent, and he was on television for about 10 years. And then he got the push from the television commentary and immediately moved to Test Match Special on the radio. And that was absolutely his home. He
Hmm.
wasn't the greatest cricketer in the world himself, although he'd been competent, but he knew the game backwards, and he had such a flair for picking the right phrase,
Hmm.
for making
Definitely.
it fun to listen to. If people have heard anything on Test Match Special, people who are not cricket fans, they may well very possibly have heard the leg over incident, which is a piece of commentary from 1989, I think, or around about that time, 89, 90, around about that period, towards the end of Brian Johnston's career. And new young up and coming commentator Jonathan Agnew, now the BBC senior cricket correspondent, still working on Test Match Special, was on commentary with him. They were summarising the end of the day's play. They were describing how Ian Botham, the great cricketer, had got out, attempting to hit the ball and instead kicking his stumps over in a very bizarre
Hmm.
manner. And Agnew describes this, how he played the shot, and I beg your pardon, his leg hit the stumps, and Johnson comes out with, well, he couldn't quite get his leg over. And they must have just looked at each other, because the next, 2, 3 minutes, maybe more, is just made up of the pair of them giggling and
Yes.
saying, "Oh, shut up, Aggers, give you that's enough," and so on. It's They both said afterwards how hugely unprofessional it was, which of course it was, but
Mm.
it was massively funny as well at the same time.
It
Very
was
silly, very silly.
very silly. I have heard that. That is very funny. I mean, was the voice of cricket. If
Yeah,
anyone's
yeah.
doing an impersonation of a cricket commentator on some comedy show, it's Brian Johnson
It's
they're
it's
impersonating.
it's him or John Arlott, isn't there? Isn't it? So,
Yes.
but I suppose Arlott was a few years before that, and Arlott was that Hampshire burr describing the
Mm.
cricket, and then Johnson, very posh,
Hmm.
Grenadier Guards and all that sort of business. He
Mm.
would, by the time he recorded this play, his voiceover for this play, he was just coming up to his 70th birthday. So he'd already been around a long time. His grandfather had been governor of the Bank of England between 1909 to 11, so massively establishment figure. Yeah, he was in the Guards. He was uh,
Mm.
at Eton, would you believe? Educated at Eton. Well, I never. And Oxford, where he got a third. Yes, went into the family's coffee business before the war. Grenadier Guards in the war. Joined the BBC after the war. Presented Come Dancing.
And I
Yeah.
think the reason we're talking quite a bit about Brian Johnston is that I struggle. This is the one I struggle to find a lot to say about this play. As you
Oh, I'm
say,
so glad you said that.
it just sort of happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, not every story has to have a twist.
But it helps if
Nothing
they have a
really.
story.
Yes. It's almost in some ways like a dramatized newspaper article
Yeah.
about nationalization of
Yeah.
farms, really.
Or a little documentary about picking a cricket team. This is like
Yes, all of
reality
that.
TV, but not as entertaining.
And
Um,
this debate about a cricket team could be a metaphor for something bigger, but you never really get that. It's just
no,
literally a debate about a cricket team.
it comes up to it, doesn't it? It comes up
Mhm.
to that. Shall we have these people as being something much more, as we said earlier? And then
Mm.
no. They're just picking a cricket team. Let's have a class-based argument as to who gets in the team and who doesn't, and then let's show the again. Why show the game at the end? You don't need to see the
Mm.
game. And it's over the closing credits, and again, you're exposing your actors as being not very good cricketers. Oh, I don't know.
Please.
I'm thinking about cricket on television, and
Hmm.
around about the same time as this, there was
Hmm.
an Australian miniseries called Bodyline,
Oh,
which
yes, I
was
remember that.
about the 1932-33 Bodyline series. And again, terrible cricketers. I'm considering one of them was supposed to be Don Bradman, the greatest batsman of all time. Then, he wouldn't have made a run. But but nonetheless, there's drama about it. There's a story about it. You can forgive the terrible depictions of the cricket because that's not what it's about, really. It's about telling the story
Mm.
of Don Bradman and Douglas Jardine, the England captain's obsession with him and with beating Australia, and how they
Hmm.
achieved it basically by coming so close to cheating that that line was very nearly crossed, and the
Mm.
international repercussions about it. This little play doesn't quite pull that off.
Mm.
It was written by Michael Wilcox. I
Hmm.
don't know what attitude he wants us to take
Mm.
towards the nationalisation of the land. I mean, as I
Mm.
indicated before, I'm all for it. Go for it. It is
Hmm.
interesting. It was set in '97, when the Blair government came into power. They couldn't have known that in '92, of course. But the
Hmm.
suggestion is a Labour government has come into power, which is actually doing something a bit Labourish,
Mm.
and doing some nationalisation and so on. Um, I don't know. There may be a lesson for today in that maybe the current government might care to have a look at that sort of idea once in a while. But hey,
Hmm.
that's just me. But Michael Wilcox doesn't give us any clues really as to whose side we're supposed to be on. Are we thinking
No.
that these people are a bunch of fools and that they should just be swept aside by history, as indeed they should, or are we supposed to be on their side? Dear
It
me.
doesn't. I mean, the wife sort of comes in at the end, and she seems to be, yeah, go along with this government scheme, and she says something about
Yeah,
you've got to be on the winning side. But
yeah,
again,
yeah,
it's all a
yeah.
bit vague, and
It is. It
uh,
is.
it's happened. So,
She's the only female character in it, of course. Very much a
mm,
supporting character. It's all a bunch of chaps. And there's a suggestion in the synopsis as well that perhaps she's spying on them. And it comes up in the play, of course.
mm.
Is your wife spying on us for the for the Blenkinsop Cricket Club or the Forestry Commission or whoever?
Mm.
And they find her outside the door on her hands and knees, apparently doing some cleaning, but maybe not. But she's not really interested, is she?
No, she's not unlike the audience, I'm afraid, on this one. Yes,
Well,
she's
yeah. Director
so.
Michael Darlow. It's not
Hmm.
a name I know.
No, I had a look. He just had a creditable career directing
Okay.
this and that. And similarly, Michael Wilcox is kind of interesting. Rural matters were clearly something he was. After this, he did a one-off TV play called Account, which is again set on a farm and it's about inheritance. So it has some
Right.
connection with cricket. Really, we can sum up on this one, I think, because in fact, a bit inconsequential, in my opinion.
Oh, certainly, absolutely. It's a while since I've seen the others in the series, to be honest. I remember
Mhm.
one about roller skating. Is that right?
I
Is it?
can't think of one about roller skating.
Perhaps
I
I'm
must
thinking of
admit.
something else. All right, no, don't
There we
mind, don't
are.
mind. There's
Yeah,
one which young people are locked away in a tower block, isn't there? And
yeah, that's called Shade, and it's
that's the most consciously futuristic of them, I
definitely
think.
yeah, and that's kind of all about. Well, it's partly about unemployment. It's also about.
Yeah,
It's interesting. I suppose it is a little bit like cricket in that there's this question about activism and that line between being politically aware and going too far and becoming an extremist. And that's been a theme in one or two of the plays. And the other theme that is conspicuously missing from cricket, but it appears in nearly all the other ones, is the bomb, which of course was
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
all our
yeah,
minds
yeah.
back in 82.
I really don't like the word extremist. I mean,
Mhm.
because what you define as an extremist is entirely subjective.
That is true.
And it
Sorry, that
depends
is.
where you put no, I'm not criticizing you. It depends where you put your center. Very much
Hmm.
depends what is an extremist. It's where you put your center. I mean, in recent years, we've had Jeremy Corbyn labelled by all and sundry as this appalling extremist. Yet, if you look at what Jeremy Corbyn spoke about and stood for, what
Hmm.
in a European context, it would have been very, very mainstream. And
Mm.
if you go back to the 70s and the Labour governments of Wilson and even Callaghan, it wouldn't have what where what Corbyn spoke of would have not looked out of place there.
No, I'd agree with you there. Yes, and if anything, it's the right that are probably
Well,
on the more extreme.
they've been very successful in describing everybody that who they don't agree with as extremists. And we're seeing it
Mm,
in America at the moment that
mm.
apparently Kamala Harris is some sort of Marxist. I mean, it's that Trump has actually described her as a Marxist. Hey,
Mm.
I'm a Marxist. She ain't not no Marxist.
We're in a stranger world in reality, definitely, than the world of cricket and play for tomorrow at the
Oh,
moment. But
oh yes, oh
yes,
yes.
definitely. Who could have predicted it?
We should finish before I lead a call for revolution, Gareth, shouldn't we? I think we're
I
getting
was
there.
gonna, I was going to say before we wrap up, I would love to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what is going on in your world at the moment and what projects you're working on yourself.
Well, I'm currently writing a book for Obverse Obverse Books. I can't. It's not. It's sort of not quite been announced yet, but it's a
Oh,
black
that's okay.
archive.
Hmm.
And then after that, one that has been announced for Obverse, I'm doing a silver archive.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
my Silver Archive is about other series than Doctor Who, if you recall. And the one I'm doing actually ties in quite nicely with what we've been talking about, because I'm doing one on political dystopias in the 1970s. So, which we've spoken about before, haven't we?
We have spoken a little bit before, and
yeah.
I'm
Well,
hoping.
I think we did one on the Guardians, didn't we?
Well,
A
that is
while
one I
ago.
hope we will come back and do
Oh yeah, yeah,
when
of course.
your book is coming out. We are definitely going
That's
to
right.
do.
I'm getting confused with myself. We did Out to the Unknown some
We
years
did
ago,
Out to the
didn't we? Yeah,
Unknown.
that's right. So yeah, so I'm covering the Guardians and 1990 and the Donati conspiracy as my main three texts. But yeah, it's looking at those but there's that. Just about getting ready to start thinking about Hooverville 16 for next year. It's been complicated a bit by uncertainty over the future of Quad, our venue in Derby, which is very much an integral part of our event. A way forward seems to have been worked out that keeps Quad open and allows us to do Hooverville on the 30th of August next year.
Thank you very much for coming on the show and for watching cricket.
It's been a lot of pleasure, Gareth. Yeah, well, yeah. Maybe I'll spend some time watching the real cricket rather more than this play again. There we are.
See a better quality of play. Very British Futures is hosted and produced by Gareth Preston with guest Steve Hatcher. Music by Chattery Art. If you could take a moment to rate us on your podcast app, that would be much appreciated. You can get in touch with the podcast via verybritishfuturespodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @FuturesVery or visit our Facebook page. This has been a Phantom Frame production.